Let me start by asking you whether you accept that Bola Tinubu is now constitutionally the president of Nigeria.
Well, I accept that we are in court questioning the validity of that pronunciation and subject to the decision of the court. I will take a clue on how to answer that your question. I want to tell you that we already have a very beautiful model which we placed before the Nigerian people and which they accepted. So we wouldn't need to have a new model. We have our model that we are going to implement at the appropriate time. You have seen the model which they promised you. They promised you renewed hope. But from the first day of inauguration, they gave you renewed hopelessness. But we promised Nigerians a new Nigeria that is free from the culture of impunity, criminality, corruption, and illegality. And we are going to maintain our focus on that promise, and at the appropriate time we will deliver. In law, you do not approbate and reprobate. You cannot be in court saying that this is an unconstitutional pronouncement, that a man who did not win an election is pronounced the winner, and begin to talk about an alliance. It is an unholy alliance, because you cannot be preaching this way and trying to accept another thing this way. That's the classical definition of being a hypocrite, and we are not that in labor. So we are consistently maintaining our stand subject to the pronouncement of the court. Because a statement was made to be an inaugural speech, and right there in the speech, you could see a man contradicting the exact thing he was saying. Well, I may not blame him. The statement was written for him, but his own utterances, which was not even in the text, ran exactly contrary to exact thing he was saying, meaning he was simply being a mouthpiece to somebody who wrote something. I said it during campaign that I am not moved by anything documented, because that may just be the work of some brilliant professors. I want to hear the candidates talk. I want them to be cross-examined. Let's hear what he would say. Now, let me move into why I said this. A man in his speech said, "We shall consult and dialogue and never dictate." And Piam, he issued the first dictate of his regime. Fuel subsidy is gone. The statement he made was in May. The subsidy was to go by June. In politics, one day is enough to do the miracle or the damage. But what is the essence of you are saying in your inaugural speech? That you are going to inflict more pain on the people. He said he was going to lead. Leadership is defined as the ability to influence people through inspiration, not intimidation or manipulation. That was a demonstration of arrogance of power, not humility of purpose. Now, let me start by saying, so that you do not misinterpret me as ever supporting anything about oil fuel subsidy. If there is anything that irritates me to my bones, is the issue of subsidy. I wouldn't have voted for anybody who said he was going to maintain oil subsidy. We should be as careful in coming out of oil subsidy as we were careless in going into it. When you saturate the system with fuel, elementary economics will teach you that when supply is excess, it maintains a cap on the price. However, no matter how supply is entrenched, if there is monopoly, the monopoly through Shylock mentality of making profit can still manipulate the supply in order to make sure that the price gets haywire. I give you an example with OPEC. OPEC can throw its weight around. Even when the supply is there and they don't like the price, they simply cut the supply and the price will jack up. That is what is happening in Nigeria. You should factor it in. Some people have been feeding big on that general corrupt tendency of oil subsidy manipulation to fill in their pocket. So when you want to deal with such things, you have to be careful coming out. You don't need to pronounce it. Like I said, why I said it's a demonstration of arrogance of power. It's just you just want to tell people that as president, my word is law. Nothing else. Because the other regime has given you a leeway. What he said is unlawful. He said oil subsidy is gone. No. What he said is not true. He said there was no appropriation for what he knew in the budget for oil subsidy. No, there was. And it ought to end by June. If you end it today, that means the June allocation for oil subsidy will be dyed by some elements of criminal tendencies, because they would have jacked up the price before exhausting the subsidy, which is already a matter of law. And that is why, as a leader, you would have factored that in. That was what I told you about the monopolist and the inevitability of racketeering in a corrupt society. You, as a leader, would have factored it in and not make that unguarded statement. You should have known that would be the result. Haven't you heard that a new price has already been issued? When you still talking about they are proceeding on the trajectory of their mistake because it's a demonstration of arrogance of power. I told you that. Not humility of purpose, which should be. A humble person will say, no. It's already a matter of law.
Right.
We do not intend, and there was no way I meant that subsidies removed. It's already a matter of law. It must face its way through June. But you see, that arrogance will not make them to have respect enough for the Nigerian people to quench their suffering. And that's why I said they don't inspire us, they intimidate and manipulate us. And that's not leadership. Oh, well, we commenced the pre-hearing session from 8th of May. And by 30th of May, we commenced the actual hearing. The actual hearing commenced yesterday, where we produced fantastic witness through which and through whom we tendered our evidence on the drug trafficking offense of the second respondent, who is Bola Tinubu. Then we tendered our evidence on the non-qualification of Bola Tinubu as a result of double nomination of Shetiba, which is there in black and white. So the evidence we produced is to the fact that in INEC, which is the only commission that organizes the election, as at the 14th of that month, he held double nomination. And no evidence, for now, has been tendered to contradict that. So we are now in post-election matters, and you can distinguish it from the pre-election matters. We have the requisite locus standi because he challenged us in the general election. And when we adduce our evidence and take away their evidence during cross-examination, you may just see that we have complied with the law. And I am talking as a party to the suit, subject to the pronouncement of the courts.